Here we are, last day of sauna week. Hyvää,
Absolutely.
hyvää huomenta, hyvää iltaa. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon.
And happy Saturday. Thank you everybody for choosing to spend your Saturday with us, continuing the conversation about sauna, which is sort of never ending. I feel like we could have put another week right behind this, Minya, and kept going, but maybe for our own sanity, it's good that we didn't. We should take a break, right? A break after this for a year.
Yeah, it's important in the sauna process, Tommy, to rest.
That's right. Yeah.
Alrighty, so let's get started. We have a very exciting session coming up and somewhat technical, but we kind of love that, don't we? So this week has just been incredible. It's been a very full week. We have laughed, we have cried, we have done all the things that we do in sauna together in this digital sauna space. Thank you to all of our speakers and presenters who have put together this time and the time to learn about sauna and the time to share it with people. That's half the battle is just teaching and sharing what we love so much with the world. Um, I'll turn it over to Tommy to talk about Finlandia Foundation National. If you've heard this before, we are grateful for you to listen to it again, but it's important to share the work that we do outside of Sauna Week, which will continue this coming Monday. So, Tommy, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Minya, thank you also for putting on a fantastic sauna week. And hello, hei kaikille ympäri maailmaa, tervetuloa ja hyvää saunaviikkoa jo 5:ttä vuotta. Hej alla runt om i världen, välkomna och glad bastu-vecka, eller ska vi säga saunavecka för 5:e året i rad. And it's the last day of Sauna Week 2025. Yes, it is important. Finlandia Foundation National is not maybe the organization you would think to be the convener, a convener of sauna expertise, but in fact, sauna has become so popular in the United States and North America. It seemed inevitable that we would come to this point to bring people together over such a Finnish, yet international sort of practice that people can relate to on many levels. And that's exactly what we're doing this week. Finlandia Foundation National has been around for 70 years. Promoting and advancing the Finnish and Finnish American community in the United States. But as we've always said, we're also for friends of Finland. And as Finland gains sort of notoriety and popularity in their public discourse, we welcome friends of Finland, anyone with an interest or curiosity of Finland to also join us. And sauna is one of those things where we can do that. Whether you're a sauna expert or a sauna beginner, you're welcome here, and Finlandia Foundation National is here to sort of welcome you in. All of our programming is built on 6 core values that we constantly try to keep at the foreground, and sauna crosscuts all of those, whether it's heritage and history, forward thinking and innovation, or health and well-being. Sauna really does have a place at the table here. Additionally, we've got 60 chapters across the country. We run a pretty robust scholarship and grant program where we support people doing important and relevant work or studies for Finnish America. And we're happy to be able to do that, all because of the support and donations of individuals for the past 70 years who have kept our foundation going. So please do visit us at finlandiafoundation.org to see more about what we do. Donate if you like the programming you see. And other than that, tune in for 6th year of Sauna Week next year. I'm not trying to put the cart before the horse here, but we look forward to that. So with that, I'll turn it back to Minia. I thank Lassi and Risto for being here, as well as all of our sponsors and everyone for joining us this Saturday. Kiitos.
Kiitos, Tommy. I'm actually a three-time grant recipient of Finlandia Foundation, and I give them a lot of credit in getting my whole marketing career started. So it's a really beautiful organization, and if you want to support our work, you're welcome to. We are totally supported by our community. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Thank you to Finnair, our gold partner, and thank you to Sauna from Finland as well. And last night closed our big giveaway, and in the next session, we'll announce the winner who's going to the World Sauna Forum, the world's most relaxing business event. How exciting! We'll be drawing that name after this session and announcing it again in the next one. Thank you as well to our silver sponsors, Garitti and Redwood Outdoors and Michigan Sauna. As well, thank you to our Birch sponsors. So many people wanted to support Sauna Week this year, Tommy. It was kind of an incredible thing. It really shows that sauna's picking up here in North America. You still have a chance to get deals on saunas, actual saunas. So if you visit nationalsaunaweek.com/sauna dealers, you can get up to $700 in savings. That ends soon. If not today, whew, maybe tomorrow. Have to double check, depends on the dealer, but do check that out. And there are still discounts available at our participating sauna partners across the country. So go get into the sauna. Thank you as well to all of our partners who support us. It's truly a team effort. And also got to thank our raffle prize donors. Look at all these wonderful companies that have shared gifts with us this week. Just, I mean, like our hearts are just overflowing. And today's raffle prize will be a Lassi's book from Northwind Books. If you win it or not, you can actually shop it at our bookstore, Northwind Books, at shop.finlandiafoundation.org. But hopefully, you're the lucky winner today, so stick around for that. You must be present to win. Please respect the intellectual property that is presented here in our session and respect the space as you would in a sauna. We come with open hearts and open minds. Okay, and with that, I'll introduce our speakers today. Risto Rice. More than a decade ago, Risto and his family stumbled into the world of Finnish sauna. They have been exploring it ever since. Risto has visited and used over 100 unique saunas across North America. His passion is researching sauna history and culture, which he explores and shares at Sauna Digest and the UpperBench and Sauna Trail podcasts. Dr. Lassi Liikkanen is a designer, author, and founder. He is recognized as a thought leader in Finnish sauna design and technology matters. With over a decade of experience in the Finnish tech industry, he has held pivotal roles in shaping digital products and services. Since 2016, Dr. Liikkanen has become an internationally respected expert in sauna technology, sharing knowledge through his platform saunalogia.fi, which reaches over hundreds of thousands of visitors annually. His first international book, Secrets of Finnish Sauna Design, was published in 2019 and became available in English in 2021, Japanese in 2024, and German in 2026. And his second book, Finnish Sauna, was published just last year. In fact, he's also done the Sauna Innovation Conference. Maybe you can talk about that at some point too. But for now, welcome Lassi Liikkanen and Risto Rice to our show. Take it away, guys. We're excited to hear more about the law of Löyly and how not to break it.
Thank you, Minja.
Kiitos.
This is a
Yeah,
pleasure.
thank you.
Thank you so much for. I was about to thank both Minja and Finlandia Foundation and also Risto for joining me in this experimental talk this evening. So it's 8 p.m. here in the Finnish time zone. So let's see how I will do for the rest of the evening. But yeah, big welcome for all our sauna friends across the world. I guess most of you are in North American time zone, so you should be a little bit more awake than I am. But I won't let that bother myself. Let's see. Risto, do you see my screen? Because I haven't got the slightest idea what I'm presenting right now.
It's coming through. It looks good.
All right, then we get going. The intention for me is that I will be talking about approximately 30 minutes, in which time I will kind of go through what really matters in sauna experience design. And then we will kind of have a few back and forth between Risto and also trying to kind of get in a few questions from the audience, who always makes the kind of best questions. So please keep the questions coming in the chat or how you feel best. And I mean, yeah, we'll then kind of bring up the questions by the end of the session. I think that's how we roll, isn't it, Risto?
Yeah, that sounds good. Let's get geeky.
Cool. Yeah, off we go. All right. I think I was actually got so good introduction from Minja that I'm not going to introduce myself much further. Maybe the only thing I'll say is that I also kind of help people actively nowadays through a website called finishsaunadesign.fi. So I provide different types of sauna design and consulting services wherever people need them. And yeah, the Soundlooking project actually just turned 10 years, so I kind of started more seriously on my current sound path publicly almost exactly 10 years ago. So for a decade, I've been now kind of exploring what I call this experiential sound design, and have done quite a few things over those years. And today I'm kind of sharing because how I kind of see my role in this like a tradition of the Finnish sauna design, and I'm thinking about it is that I think I've been trying to kind of hold up this quite holistic perspective into what it takes to create desirable sauna experiences through design. In my thing, I kind of combine the ideology of heat, air quality, interior design, which has been kind of my holy trinity in terms of how I organize stuff. And this is the basis of the book that was mentioned already. And so the sound design is important. Of course, the design doesn't really help alone. And we know that you also have to build the sauna, not just dream about it. So last year, my book, The Finnish Sauna, was published for this reason. So it kind of introduces a lot of construction techniques about the modern sauna to international audience. Some of these techniques haven't really been previously introduced or kind of described in English at all, but it's basically just like reflections of the craft as it goes here in Finland nowadays. And one thing that is maybe as I was kind of thinking about what kind of a speech I would have here, I realized that because we have 1 year ago on the previous National Sauna Week, I had the opportunity to give a talk which was called Steam Through Time, the four generations of the Finnish sauna. And I think it's important that because we're kind of living in an era where different kind of generations of sauna technology coexist. But then people like to kind of when people are talking about sauna, they usually kind of talk about their personal sauna project or some particular sauna. And when people kind of give out advice, for instance, the design of the sauna, it's easy to kind of mix the different kind of generations of technology, and because they have as these kind of new innovations in the sauna area come forth, some of the rules in the sauna design evolve, and the kind of theme of today's presentation is going to be trying to kind of see how these different elements balance in sauna design, what is really important and what is important but not super important. Because I think the shared goal, whenever we're talking about sauna design, eventually in creation of sauna, is the pleasurable sauna experience. It is the type of a sauna where people want to come back again and again and again. Something that kind of brings us in. That's what we're aiming at. How you get there is eventually irrelevant, but mm, that's what we're trying to do. So in this talk, I will present like four factors for experiencing sauna design. That four of them, what I call here noteworthy, not crucial, and then four things that I find much more uncompromisable. And we're going to start with these noteworthy things. I'm going to kind of discuss through all of the points one by one, and then we're going to turn into the more uncompromisable stuff. And let's see what you think about this, and do you kind of agree with me in the end? Let's get going. First of all, I do as I've been going through different kind of international events over the past years. I've have high respect for the people who try to learn Finnish language and say properly the words sauna or löyly, and kudos to you if you already kind of mastered that. If Finnish is not your primary language, particularly Löyly is kind of a very hard one. But I have to say that I would say that for me, how you kind of pronounce stuff shouldn't become as an obstacle to communicate and talk about the concepts in a way that kind of shows that you've actually understood what you're talking about. Because I find it much more problematic, or it's much bigger a problem that you don't if you don't understand what, for instance, löyly means. Even if you pronounce it perfectly, and then you kind of still talk about it without kind of understanding what you're talking about. So I picked up the table from my latest book about what is sauna. I think for me, in my conversation, it's important to kind of try to, when I kind of meet a new person, for instance, online, and start talking about what, if they kind of usually present that they have interest to get a sauna for themselves. So one thing is that I want to kind of go through that they understand what is the sauna actually, because there are different kind of technologies such as banya, infrared cabins, steam rooms, hammams, that have some similarities with sauna, and particularly the infrared technology is, I think, intentionally mixed up with sauna quite a lot, particularly in the North American market, where it's so much more prevalent than here in Finland. So whenever we're talking about the kind of Finnish sauna, it's kind of essential to see that we have actually a visible heater that has sauna stones. We have quite high temperature. Usually have high benches, and of course, the possibility to create load. This is where it kind of comes from. So no matter if you say sauna or if you say sauna, as long as you mean the same thing, which is approximately this kind of combination of properties, I think you're good to go. Then about Löyly. So I'd say that the Löyly is kind of interesting thing because you can kind of simply say that Löyly basically just means creating steam. And you can think about it more in a spiritual way, if you like, because I mean, in a way, you're kind of releasing the essence of the sauna and the whole experience of sauna, particularly for any Finnish person. It's not really the same. You really have to kind of experience the Löyly, or you haven't really been to the sauna. It cannot be kind of overemphasized. So that's kind of much more important, whether you ever learn to say how the Löyly is pronounced or not. But I think that's something that people seem to kind of. I was just actually reading a book previous evening called Sweat by a North American author who had kind of confused. I don't know if he had done quite a lot of research or not, but apparently he didn't quite understand what Löyly was meaning. So, but this is important. This is one of the kind of, I'd say, the only remaining part about the Finnish sauna ritual. So please respect Löyly. Then, speaking of which, the law of Löyly. Now, I would like to get some. I mean, there seems to be about approximately 70 people here among us. Maybe we can get some kind of a reaction, raise of hands, hearts, or anyone else. Have you heard about the law of Löyly before? I know Risto actually at least has. So you can Risto raise your both hands. You're definitely guilty of at least hearing about this, haven't you?
Yeah, super familiar with that law, especially if you're online talking about sauna.
Yeah, it's unavoidable. And I think I would expect that quite a few of our participants have also heard about it in the past. And yeah, I want to a little bit like give background and context to the law of Löyly in a way that because the law of Löyly comes back to this guy here. This guy's Sakari Palsi, doctor of philosophy. He worked at the Finnish National Museum for a very long time. Eventually, he was made an honorary professor. He was a long-term scholar of ethnography and folklore, also a documentarist using cinematography and photography and also an author. He was actually wrote quite a few books, I think, over 30 books by end of his last years, some of them more historically inspired. He did quite a lot of expeditions around the world, exposing himself to different type of cultures, including different type of bathing cultures. And one of his last books before he died was called Sauna. And this is a kind of I just recently read this whole book in order to kind of really understand where it kind of comes from. And I wrote down its collection of manly sauna experiences around the world because it's very manly or through and through. And it's written in a very funny style. I also kind of last year I also went through the Don Quixote, very classical, very old reading, and I do also recommend that book. The English translation is hilarious, and the same goes with this Sakari Palsi's Sauna book. It's I think it would be quite impossible to fully translate it. It has got such a unique type of language in itself. But what he is talking about is that I think his kind of central theme is this kind of correct, proper Finnish sauna bathing, as it existed somewhere when he was young. So that's like early 1900s. And then he goes in through this book, he kind of reflects his experiences in Finland, across outside Finland, and thinking about what is the kind of authenticity and purity in the Finnish sauna. And kind of you have to kind of understand that he's writing this in 1960s when he's already an old guy. One of the things is that he condemns a lot of this kind of modern sauna corruption. And within the kind of pages of the book, he gives few sauna design commandments. First of all, he's very adamant that people should only use wooden stone inside the sauna, except you can use iron for the door hinges. But then also comes even more radical statement called Law of Löyly. And this is about that when seated on the sauna benches, see that the sauna stones lay at the level of your toes and the ceiling is close to the reach of a whisk. That is my kind of translation. I've been trying to be as verbatim as possible. And these are pretty much like his kind of commandments. And the law of Löyly is put very kind of clearly. And he even describes it as an inevitable law of nature that modern builders have forgotten. And I think so. He goes kind of a long way to rebuke the different type of saunas that started to emerge in urban Finland after the Second World War. I think this kind of rebuke sounds quite familiar also how we feel today. And here's an image from his book about one of these modern saunas that he found so reproachable. And here's the example, actually a good sauna. So I mean the interpretation is very clear. So you always have to kind of take into consideration when you're designing the sauna how tall, what kind of heater you're using, in relative to everything else. And that's pretty much it. Clear guidance. But the thing is that I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand that even though I do say this is approximately correct statement in a way that, for the reasons that we don't really fully understand yet. There's kind of good conversation, which I'm not going to go into today, why it kind of works. But I think this is kind of most relevant with certain types of heaters, single wood-fired heaters, such as those prevalent in Palestine, and also some electrical heaters. And it's also very important in private saunas that are used maximum 2 hours at a time. Although this has to do more with heat stratification than the behavior of Löyly. But if you have kind of combination of these type of heaters, natural ventilation, then you really have to be kind of acutely aware of whether you're doing this law of Löyly sauna. But then again, as I said, nowadays, thanks to the modern technology, we have, for instance, mechanical ventilation and downdraft mechanical ventilation. We have heaters that can air circulation heaters and technology, which we can use to kind of bypass this type of limitations. So even if the law is kind of valid in a way, I don't think we shouldn't kind of emphasize it too much when we think about good sauna design. All right, then we go to the factor number three. And this is actually a little bit more like from contemporary Finnish debate, maybe rather than the international debate, is that because here in Finland, a lot of the people really love the wood-burning heaters. And I mean, what is, I can't really disagree with anyone, because the wood-burning heaters do have their own charm. They're usually quite powerful, and they're kind of easy to get along with. Of course, you require a little bit of work, but when you get used to it, it's good going. Of course, then we also have some Finnish people really love smoke saunas and actually would only prefer to go to the smoke saunas. But then some Finnish people hate smoke saunas. And I think when you think about like getting your sauna heated up, it's really kind of matter of having the appropriate amount of energy, however you're going to get it. That's really kind of really more important than how you actually create it. Because I don't think there's in sauna heating matters and energy, there's no global optimum. And the different type of heat sources that you might imagine can have different fit with how you want to work your sauna. Because we do know that some of the heaters have their kind of built-in specials, like the continuous wood-burning heaters. They have an effect on your exhaust. Or here in a photo that I'm posing with, this is a hydrogen heater, a prototype created by Harvia last summer. And this hydrogen heater, for instance, creates small humidification effect because it burning hydrogen actually releases water. Not that much though, but it still does. So I think in my own thinking, this is one of the things I'm kind of trying to be most flexible, that there's no kind of free single right solution. But what we do have to be aware of is that we're trying to kind of match, always have the right amount of energy available regarding the space, the people, and the type of use. So a little bit like that. But then in the same vein, sauna temperature is something that particularly some of our more technical audience might be familiar with the fact that North American electrical heaters are kind of capped in the temperature if they're following the old standard UL 875. So they're limited to this very arbitrary 194 degrees Fahrenheit. And some people are kind of very seriously pissed off by the fact that there's this kind of cap available with electrical heaters. But then again, I would like to kind of say that for me, sauna temperature is really not that crucial in the end, in a way that I see that because the sauna heat is kind of a combination of several things. It's not only about the kind of existing air temperature or the temperature of the different wooden structures. Because here on the right, you can see an infrared image that gives you an idea that the sauna is actually, it always has many temperatures. There's not just single temperature. There's a different kind of gradients, like the most kind of typical is the gradient of the vertical temperature gradient, which basically refers to the temperature stratification. Saunas are usually always hottest on the top, and it gets colder the lower you go. So I think one thing I would like to say to everyone in North America who's kind of worried about that their sauna is not going to get too hot, at least it's 194 degrees Fahrenheit shouldn't be really kind of big concern, because at least in the Finnish tradition, I think that we can say that the sauna is pretty much usable if we can get a kind of reasonable range from 60 to 90 degrees Celsius, 140 to 190 degrees Fahrenheit. And because when we're actually thinking about what kind of sauna environment we want to use, we can't really describe the sauna environment in its totality without kind of thinking about also the humidity part, which basically means that we should, if we want to talk about temperature, we should talk about the wet bulb temperature or the dew point, which both kind of give an idea about the combination of the humidity and the kind of dry temperature. What I kind of like about private saunas is that people can then freely experiment and kind of figure out what kind of combination of temperatures and humidity kind of suits them both best. So I think don't get too stuck on the temperature, particularly because if we, a lot of people in the US are drawn into the sauna because of the health benefits. And the funny thing is that if we go look into the studies that were made in the past or were published during the past 10 years, or even a little bit actually from 2015 to 2014, 2024, by the Professor Jari Laukkanen's research group, in the database that they were using, because they had this huge data set by people reporting how they used sauna over this 10, 20 years. We can find that in the research data, first of all, there wasn't kind of any kind of clear association between the sauna temperature and the long-term health benefits. And the other thing is that the actual temperatures that the Finnish people reported using in their saunas, so the same people who had these incredible health benefits of the frequent and long enough sauna exposure, their kind of bathing happened usually between like 60 degrees Celsius and 92 degrees Celsius, with the average being around 76. So once more, if you are really kind of trying to use the sauna for health benefits, I don't think there's any kind of very good reason you to be worried about not hitting that 200 Fahrenheit. I mean, some people might like 200 Fahrenheit or even more, but I don't think it's probably not going to be necessary to get the health benefits that people are so keen on. Okay, so I'm pretty much more than halfway through. We spent about 20 minutes thinking about this kind of things that I think people don't have to kind of take so super seriously in every occasion. But now we're going to be looking into something that I would call uncompromisable design factors. And I think, Risto, what we agreed is that you'll present your comments once we're done with all of these. Or do you want to intercept?
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll try and figure out ways to compromise these uncompromisable design factors.
Yeah, that is good as well. All right, we move forward. So, four things that I think are somewhat more uncompromisable, in my opinion, is that there will be stone temperature, the user needs, safety and healthiness, and finally sustainability. And keep in mind, the goal was that we're trying to eventually just provide people with pleasurable sauna experiences. This is the kind of end goal and kind of final measure of whether we've succeeded in the design. And one thing in the Finnish, when I was kind of emphasizing that we need to have that Löyly thing. So the Löyly thing is not really possible unless we have hot enough stones in our heater. And of course, those stones also have to be accessible. So one thing is that we can compromise. We might have like perfectly well heated sauna, but in some cases, the stones might not be getting hot enough. And unlike with the sauna room temperature, where I had this kind of pretty big like range of temperatures. I'd say that we, with the sauna stones, we have like a threshold temperature, which is approximately 150 degrees Celsius, 300 Fahrenheit. Um, if the temperature goes much below that, then it becomes more and more difficult to get any steam. Here, there's a few images of with thermal camera, which really show that in some cases we have like not so well functioning heaters where the stones don't get hot enough. Like here, this kind of big chunk of the heater is actually way too cold to get any steam out of it. You can and you can definitely recognize this even without a thermal camera, because if you pour any water in this kind of cold regions, the water will just run through it. Here on the right, another thermal camera image of a heater, which is actually made up. Underneath this pile of stones, there are actually three electrical heaters, and then they filled up this fourth corner with just stones, which aren't heated up at all because there's no heater beneath them. So if you would end up trying to use this heater here on this spot here on the lower left, no steam for you, my friend. So I think this is like really critical. And usually, at best, we have these heaters that are partially compromised, which is not good because they will kind of destroy this Finnish type of sauna pleasure. And at best, then we have heaters that are kind of fully cooked and ready to go. Like here's an image of a smoke sauna heater being prepared. Of course, the smoke sauna heaters, as the other types of like a heat storage heaters, have the benefit that, or the principle that they actually have to be heated up very thoroughly in order to give at least a couple of hours of sauna time enjoyment, because the only steam, you can't really kind of heat them up afterwards. So all the energy that you want to use during the sauna has to be stored in the rocks during the heating time. So this is kind of something I won't kind of compromise, because once the sauna gets cold, then it's really kind of done for. Then very different venue. Another thing that I've paid attention to more recently is different kind of varied areas of safety and healthiness. Because even if your primary motive of using the sauna is not to kind of extend your longevity, I think it's still kind of clear that most of people, even if you kind of enjoy sauna, you don't want to kind of go to sauna that would endanger your life or be kind of otherwise dangerous. And we've had most recently in Tokyo in December, there was an unfortunate fatal accident where a young couple got locked inside a very small sauna cubicle in Tokyo. And so they couldn't get out because there's a locking mechanism which malfunctioned, and they got locked inside. And there was a few other things that went wrong in this case as well. But I think, and unfortunately, this has not been the only case in the past 10 years or so once I've been following the field. I think there's kind of like a little bit, I'd say, unsavory trend that, because in traditional sauna, in the Finnish tradition, we've had quite small but visible amount of safety mechanisms that has been trying to prevent people from getting hurt and also preventing fire hazards. And some of these mechanisms don't look very good. So now that I've been having more and more conversations with future prospective sauna owners, people very much like to do away with all kinds of any safety guardrails and so forth. So I kind of keep on kind of pushing people that, oh, yeah, we can't really, that they have to be put in there. But I do see online photos of brand new saunas which have been done in a fashion that will create very kind of dangerous situations for people. Unfortunately, one of the photos that I was supposed to put here is missing, but if you go, for instance, browsing sauna Reddit, you'll definitely find photos that are not kind of don't look very safety or healthy. So I think both fire safety, particularly when you're dealing with wood burning heaters, and also general safety measures are must, not only in public saunas but also in private saunas, because it's in the end you're kind of one person you should kind of care about most is of course your own health as well. So there's a short list of different type of like safety mechanisms that should be found in the sauna. They go around benches, heaters, in wood burning heater, the flue, And of course, the door. So the door was the kind of culprit in the Japanese case, and also Löyly water. There's been some conversations about whether you should use as hot as possible Löyly water. That actually would kind of save energy in the sense that because there's a little bit less amount of energy is needed if you put in like warmer water. But then again, if the water is boiling hot, handling the water inside the sauna becomes quite unsafe. So I would say that try to keep the water also kind of lukewarm rather than burning hot. And here's an example of but like a more safe way of securing a sauna door. This is called a roller latch. Extremely simple. You can't lock it, and you can always kind of open the door when you use this kind of latch. So depending on whether you have like a wooden door frame or glass door frame, so this is kind of compatible with the glass door frame. This should be enough to keep the door closed even if you bang in loads of löyly. But it's always safe to exit the door this way. Yeah, there's a long story about this Japanese accident on Sanlogi. Then one thing that also I've personally found more and more important is to think about that. Of course, everyone would like to say that now that they've got their brand new sauna that is the best in the world, and I think a lot of the Finnish people are really kind of proud that, of course, their home sauna that's the best one in the whole world. I think that's fair. But even though we might somehow be objectively be able to measure that, for instance, the smoke saunas here in Finland might be kind of ultimate sauna experience. But for like most of the people, it's probably not the sauna that you want to use every day or even every week. So I think one of the things that we might easily kind of forget is that it's not really kind of the objectively best sauna that might be kind of your best sauna. So for every person who's particularly looking for kind of build or get designed their own sauna, it's more important to find their version. Or what is the sauna that provides them the best thermal comfort, personal heat preferences, has the right capacity? Because one of the things that I kind of encounter quite a lot in my work with North American customers is that people like to build saunas that are approximately small hockey stadium sized or like only 200 of their best friends. And then we kind of try to downsize them to be in a more reasonable size that maybe it's only like 4 or 6 people you actually want to have in your sauna at one time. And so kind of trying to find your personal best situation, not the kind of best sauna that could exist in the whole world, but something that will kind of suit you as well as possible. And then finally, I actually kind of was before choosing to take this rather odd challenge of putting out this less and more important sauna design factors. Sustainability was one of the themes that I kind of long pondered, and I've been thinking about it for several years. Which I think, because nowadays we have more, I think there's kind of the renaissance of the sauna means that there's more and more saunas being built all over the world than ever before or in a very long time. And I think this is kind of also puts up a lot of responsibility for the people who are doing promotion for saunas, and also for me, I'm kind of designing saunas for future sauna users. Think about the kind of sustainability, because we know that this photo here on the background, this is from this location in Helsinki called Niemelän Torppa, which is part of this Seurasaari Open Air Museum, one of the kind of oldest documented sauna in Finland to survive. And we know that this was actively used for more than 2 centuries, or during more than 2 centuries. And so we've actually, so I think the kind of starting point for the sustainability of the sauna is pretty good, because we know that the saunas can survive and they can be used for a very, very long time as buildings. So we have to think about, there are like several dimensions to the sustainability thinking, but I think we have to kind of think about what kind of buildings and spaces we are building when we create saunas. So we do have to have kind of grasp this kind of strong environmental sustainability, but also the social aspects of sustainability. Unfortunately, I won't now going to be elaborating all this stuff, but I'm going to say one thing about this kind of structure life cycle perspective. particularly when it comes to kind of environmental sustainability. Is that so? How I see it is that we actually have a lot of ways to influence how much uh, kind of burden we put on the environment from our sauna, starting from the design, construction, also, of course, the operation, whether it's a private sauna or public sauna, that matters quite a lot. Also, the maintenance, and then how we get rid of them. The sauna end of life will happen one way or the other. In Finland, particularly the smoke saunas were kind of very infamous for the fact that they tended to burn down, but of course that was kind of a graceful end of life choice. But nowadays, as our saunas are being increasingly built out of very different kind of materials, we also have to kind of think about that what will happen when the sauna is actually going to be retired eventually. Are we going to have a huge pile of unrecyclable material at our hands, or can we actually, at least in theory, uh, put it on fire without any major concerns for emissions and other ugly outcomes? And so I think this kind of environmental operation of saunas is really a complicated thing, also here in Finland. And I know that this is kind of widely variable situation across North America, because in some places, for instance, wood burning saunas are definitely a no-go. In some places, there's practically no regulation regarding of how and where you can run wood burning heaters. But I think it's kind of the goals are pretty clear. We know that we'd like to have this emission-free, carbon neutral, or even negative energy sources. They are desirable, but I think for average person, the electrical sauna heaters in locations where you can get green energy is probably kind of closest where you can get to kind of improve the more like environmental sustainability in sauna operations. But we'll see where that goes. For instance, the hydrogen sauna that's Harvia had made a prototype last summer is technically quite feasible. But of course, it doesn't have any, the whole infrastructure is totally missing. So we don't really know if we're going to be able to enjoy the hydrogen saunas in more large quantities anywhere soon. Then although we've also seen there was an interesting Swiss prototype from a company called Light Fire with a solar heated sauna. This is approximately 7 years ago. It hasn't really gone anywhere, but the prototype I think still exists. And Harvia also introduced this another like what they call zero prototype. Oh, this is not a prototype. This is already being sold. Kind of off-grid sauna, which can be operated, this electrical sauna, which can be operated based on, with batteries for a couple of hours if you can just charge it up. And interesting concept, but and also available for commercially already. But I think that so far we are not there yet. We have options for environmentally sustainable sauna, at least in operational base. But I think we also have to kind of remember the big picture. We have to make the saunas usable and attractive so that people actually use them. The kind of worst possible kind of scenario is to build a beautiful sauna that's not pleasurable to use, and so it falls out of use, and then it will kind of be transformed into something else, like a pile of rubble, a couple of years later. And that's kind of the worst possible outcome for both the people who wanted to enjoy the sauna, but also the sauna that was supposed to be a nice place. So I hope we can make the sauna possible for also the next 1,000 years. So think about that when you think about helping other people discover the sauna, how we're going to make it both sustainable and more than anything fun. Have it together and have it with your friends and family also in the future. I think that's it. Now I'm kind of ready to face Risto.
Well, thank you very much. That was a great presentation. I especially love the way that you're looking at it holistically. I think that's very important for how we look at sauna. It's easy to get lost in the details and the weeds. And then also kind of that long term, obviously we have a big uptick in sauna interest in use right now. Um, but the question that's always in the back of my mind is where is it going to be 60 years from now? So I thought that was good. We had a couple, maybe before I get to my questions, there was a couple questions from people that are watching. The first one was it's an anonymous question asking about ventilation. They said their sauna feels too stuffy and they're not sure how and where to add a vent. And that's going to be tricky without you seeing their sauna, but can you give just kind of like maybe like a high level principle that they might be able to, pull the thread on?
Well, yeah, I think there's no shortage of information online or in our very loved AI chatbots nowadays regarding sauna ventilation. But I think so. I think what people when you're kind of searching for information, you have to be aware of is that what type of heater you are using. Is it electrical heater? Is it a wood burning heater or something else? What sort of ventilation solutions you might be usable with? For instance, is it like, can you use mechanical ventilation in some form, or are you going to be using natural ventilation? Because it's kind of funny that even though there aren't that many kind of options to go around with, but when you kind of multiply these different options for heating and different options for ventilation, you actually get a quite different set of solutions. And one of the things, the easiest things that go wrong is that people will look up, for instance, instructions online, and then they will discover, oh, right, here's kind of a nice illustration of mechanical ventilation, which says mechanical ventilation can be used with any type of heater, with very few caveats, and that's good to go. But if you just try to adapt the ideas of the mechanical ventilation to natural ventilation, you're into trouble. So I think I'm not going to start having the lecture about how you do that perfectly, but I think it's important that you understand your own premises of what you're trying to do with those or principle of ventilation and the type of heater that you have. And I'm pretty sure you can find the right type of solutions already online or in web
Yeah.
books.
Yeah. I mean, I think a great way to approach it, the word you said there would be principle. I think oftentimes people are just looking for a solution, like a diagram.
Mhm.
But understanding what the different vents do and how ventilation works in sauna and the way the air moves. I mean, that can be tricky because it's invisible. Um, but you can always make my idea, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, would be to have a little bit too much ventilation that's adjustable. Um, and then consult with your heater manufacturer. But I'm not sure. Would you say that manufacturers generally, because they provide design guidelines, would you say that they generally provide enough ventilation in their guidelines?
I would say that most of the heater manufacturers don't provide adequate guidance at all. Because for last summer, I did this small review of five different electrical heater brands and how they kind of give manual guidance to customers. And I think I only found like two good solutions, and the rest of clearly had different types of omissions. So I think that's a little bit of a problem that the heater manufacturers themselves aren't really that kind of good on explaining how the heaters should be, or what sort of ventilation you should have. And unfortunately, of course, some of things are also a little bit like there's not always very good agreement that what is the kind of best solution in every case, particularly when it comes to different varieties of natural ventilation. Uh, there are clearly more bigger, like serious gaps also in the literature.
Yeah. So so I guess check out Lassi's book and website and pay attention to the principles as you're designing for your
Yeah, because
ventilation.
you definitely find all kinds of diagrams online circulating. For instance, this very lot cited VTT study from Finland from 1993, sorry, which is very good, but it only applies to fully mechanical ventilation saunas as it is, and so don't make the mistake of kind of using it as a guiding principle for your natural ventilation wood burning sauna.
Yeah. So I've got a question. So you kind of alluded to this that we can look at sauna design from a couple different angles. One being what is the end goal? That we arrive at whatever this end goal is. And there can be various different end goals. But then the other way that we can look at the design or what we can have in mind is what is the process to making sure that we have this certain process in place. My question is, does it really matter? Do we need to design for the process as long as we achieve this certain end goal? Because you had a lot of flexibility in your design as far as like you said, it doesn't matter kind of what we heat with so much. Um, so I've been thinking about that idea, like, does it really matter the process and how we design as long as we achieve this certain end goal? And I guess a bigger question would be, what is that end goal?
Yeah, I personally don't think it matters that much. And I mean, like a lot of the people, sincerely don't really want to kind of get too much involved with it. I think also in North America, as well as here in Finland, many people are just content by getting like a ready-made sauna for their backyard, and then they are kind of happy campers ever after. If things go well, I mean, I'm not saying that saunas here or there would be kind of perfect, but they might kind of just suit your purpose. Like some people even like tent saunas, which I'm not personally very huge fan of. But I think it's kind of a uh, uh, I think it's more a matter that how big step towards becoming this kind of very serious sauna connoisseur you're going to take. And do you want to kind of really kind of put time into developing your perfect sauna or something that you think might be your perfect sauna? Because the one thing is that, of course, particularly if you kind of end up stuck with one single sauna in your life, then that's going to be a quite important factor in shaping what type of sauna person you develop. For instance, if you, for one reason or another, uh, end up getting very, very small sauna, and then that naturally limits your opportunities to have social sauna, which I know that Krista, you're kind of a big fan of. So for those people who really want to kind of hang around in the sauna with a lot of friends and bring people over and introduce them to the sauna, I think that basically already kind of brings us to a little bit different type of like a setting, which should probably go into the process. And if you just kind of think having conversations with the sales guy who's trying to kind of sell you the uh, currently on sale sauna kit, which he has in good stock, um, you might end up with slightly different solution than if you can really put your personal time and effort in thinking through what is your kind of own priority in sauna. I'm not sure if I addressed your question at all, but
No, I think so. And I think that North Americans, I would like to encourage all North Americans to take some time to listen to the Finnish people and understand what is their goal. Because I would like to see us steal from your rich cultural practice, not just to be traditional or do it the right way, but I think there's some wonderful things about what the Finnish end goal is with sauna.
yeah, and I think also it kind of never ends. I began by having this statement about Löyly and how people should hopefully understand the kind of meaning of Löyly, because, as I said, the Löyly is one of those things that is kind of we have very little shared traditions or rituals nowadays anymore in the kind of present day Finnish sauna culture, which is I think it's partly. I personally attribute it to the fact that we have so many private saunas. So when everyone can have their sauna the way they like, then things kind of might get simplified, at least what we have here in Finland. Whereas because interestingly, the rest of the world, and now also here in Finland, like last year, 25, the most read new article on Sanologia was a story about Aufgus. And some of you, well, I think most people nowadays know about Aufgus, but Aufgus has really been kind of a very, I'd say, unholy topic for the Finnish, particularly more like traditional sauna people, because it's like a really bunch of very new type of behaviors that haven't been introduced to the Finnish sauna ever before. But it's also kind of thing that seems to nowadays there seems to be more and more Finnish people also excited about having Aufgus, and we've got new places that offer Aufgus opening up also in Finland. So I mean, things develop, and if you want to do that, be able to kind of change the culture. I think you have to be you have to kind of take that into consideration whenever you start the kind of process of sauna, thinking about what are the kind of goals in the end, what sort of change or culture we're trying to achieve.
I have a funny question because I get into the sauna a lot with North Americans and I end up being like a coach or a guide and explaining how to do sauna. Um, can we talk about rocks really quickly? Like rocks are a huge part of the sauna experience. They're necessary and they are old as time, but there's a certain type of rock we can use. Do we have to change them out? Do rocks get old? They're already pretty old. And can rocks explode? I get that question a lot.
Well, yeah, it's a good question. I think starting from the last one, I think rocks can explode, but I think if you find your heater filled up with exploding rocks, something has gone wrong from very early on, because there are like rocks, most famously asbestos. There are rocks that might be what do you call porous, so they might kind of absorb water, and if there's water inside the rock and you heat it up, it goes off with a loud bang because the water expands and then it'll kind of break down the rock. But that I think the problem was that you shouldn't be using that type of a rock at all in the first place. And yes, the rocks definitely do get old. I've been studying the rock aging process quite intensively over the years, actually. And every rock gets old in the end, some of them earlier, some of them later. The rocks that are being commercially used here in Finland and exported to US, which is quite crazy, I know, uh, also age, but so they've been more like tested so that the rocks that are normally commercially sold are kind of at least here in Finland, once more, they are kind of known to be robust, and so they won't break down immediately, but they will break down in the end. So they have
What's
to be replaced.
It's interesting, the rock. So I have kind of a challenging question here. In northern Minnesota, in Ely, Minnesota, they have a sauna, and I think it was probably built by Finns, but it uses a metal radiator to heat the room. And then you sit across the room. It's a rather large hot room, and you pull a cord, which sprays water on the metal radiator and then creates steam from that across the room. Would you consider that to be a sauna?
That's a good
Yeah, that's a
question.
good, yeah, excellent question. Yeah, I don't think I would anymore. I think that we have to really draw the line somewhere, because there's also, I think, another interesting variant is mostly like in the Russian tradition of banyas. A lot of these kind of, I say, most extreme banyas, they have sauna heaters, or well, banya heaters, I guess. They have banya heaters that are filled up with steel, usually different varieties of steel, which basically that means that it can heat up much higher because the stones usually kind of reside at maximum something like like 600 Celsius, 1300 Fahrenheit. But you can get steel much hotter even with electrical heating systems. So, and that might kind of somewhat change qualitatively of how the steam kind of comes out of the heater. But I think it also, now I would have to say that no, that's not a sauna anymore. It might be a banya or it might be something else. But it's if we draw a line somewhere, I think that would be outside that line already.
Yeah, and I've got to use that I'll call it a sauna, because I think it scratched that itch well enough. I definitely agree with you that the heat really matters, uh, and the steam can make up for that lower air temperature for sure. But if you can't make steam and you have a low air temperature, that's pretty frustrating.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
is something magical about the rocks. Like if it's on the radiator, it's metal, and maybe there's metal that's floating around in the air. I like this earth component, this old earth component, and knowing that that's what I'm breathing in. There's something
Yeah, I think that's
spiritual to that.
yeah. I think it's somewhat comforting, and I think that's so partially also going back to those commandments from Caleb Palsi, is that he was very adamant that they should also only be like rock and wood inside the sauna. And I mean, a lot of people really appreciate the experience in that type of a setting, and because some people are also very much kind of mm, scared or sensitive, even to the possibility of having some toxins or whatever, being different kind of emissions and off-gassing from any modern materials. So if you can only kind of use this old logs and stoves and uh, masonry products, I think you're probably going to be pretty, you can be pretty confident that when you enter the sauna, it's going to be as pure as possible.
Yeah. Minnie, how much time do we have? I think I see a few more questions.
There's so many questions.
Yeah.
I think we can squeeze one or two more and then we'll do the
Okay.
raffle.
We'll
Yeah.
try and do rapid fire. Um, this is a tricky one. Nils asked about the saunas in Finland that seem to be, and even some older ones like smoke saunas that seem to not have the three-tier benches. They seem to break the law of Löyly.
Yeah, I think we have. Yeah, that's probably one of the things is that we have. The old saying was that there was like two different like building traditions, like more like an Eastern and Western type of like a sauna tradition in Finland as well. But I think that some of the like Eastern tradition saunas tend to be very low, and it was not kind of guaranteed that this law of Löyly would be kind of anywhere obeyed in each and every one of these like Eastern Finnish type of saunas. And so I think we can I'd say that we can find so many examples of this, even though color Mr. Palsy was kind of very adamant that this is the law that the old guys always followed. I don't think he wasn't really kind of person who would have intentionally been going around the world, the Finnish country in order to kind of see and measure every sauna he could find. He was just like I think for the purpose of his writing style in the book was something that he just wanted to make just find another like rhetorical argument. So he decided to coin this law of Löyly just in order to make his article argument stand out, but it wasn't really kind of founded anything more than some of his uh, observations. Not to kind of anyways belittle his amazing career in any other ways, but I think in terms of sauna, it was just one of the things he was interested to babble
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. And maybe Nils says he's talking about modern ones. It could be the move indoors, I think, really did lower the ceiling on a lot of sauna expressions,
Mm, yeah.
metaphorically and literally. One more question that we had in the day and age of giant glass windows or walls in saunas and colored LED lighting, when you're approaching lighting in
TVs.
sauna, what do you think about? What are we missing? What should we be thinking about?
Well, I personally kind of like very diminished lighting in a way that I personally think that the sauna should be placed for like contemplation or even meditation and this kind of relaxing. So I don't kind of like TVs or very bright lighting. Even some places people try to put up, for instance, northern lights type of lighting. But I think there are a few nice spots. For instance, if you can heat up the heater, you can see the steam coming out of the heater when you kind of put a water on it. That I think that's kind of nice effect, and it's also for the safety. I think the safety, uh, the lighting kind of starts out by making sure that it's safe enough to be in the space. I think one of the funniest things that can happen to you in a Finnish smoke sauna is that you actually accidentally sit on top of another person because you don't see them in the dark, even if we're so pale, but it's pitch dark. So that's too little light for you if you stumble upon other people, but
Yeah.
otherwise, minimum.
Yeah, Christina said dark like the womb. And there is, I think, a physiological aspect of that when you put yourself into and basically an oven environment. All of your senses are excited, and it's nice to, I think, when the light is less bright, it's kind of nice on your mind with everything else that's going on. But there's a time and a place to be able to look out at the lake or something like that. So,
Yeah.
Totally. I'm sitting in front of my favorite sauna in the world. This is a smoke sauna on a lakeside in Finland. No lights, no nothing, just and you can see through the slats on the floor, you can see the ground below. So you're getting a lot of ventilation and if you lean on the walls, you get covered in soot. Like it's just a wonderful old sauna. So thank you guys so much. You see my little timer up there. It's pretty fun,
Yeah.
huh?
Thank you so much. And sorry for all the people we couldn't answer all your questions. So we need to do this another time as well.
we'll have to do it again. And these guys, our audience can get in touch with you if they have more burning questions, pun intended. Happy Sauna Week. Thanks for being here. Thanks to Risto and Lassi for sharing your wisdom. We're so grateful that you could be on the show today. Kiitos. You're both
Thank you.
muted. There you are.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice Saturday, or don't forget to go to the sauna.
Yeah, go enjoy sauna now. You deserve it. Bye, everyone. Hey, hey.
Bye.